Hey there YouTube, how's it going? Nerdy Narwhal here, and I'm back with another 6-scale action figure review. Now I just did a massive unboxing, so I've got a lot of reviews to make, but I wanted to start off with this, the Star Ace King Leonidas figure from 300. And that is because we just took a look recently at the Hot Toys King Leonidas figure. So I made a lot of comparisons in that video to this piece from memory. And I thought it'd be fun to get it in front of us, and then at the end of this review, even do a little side-by-side comparison. Now, the Star Ace Leonidas. Let's start off with everything he comes with. He's currently wearing most of his kit. He has the shield here, the spear here, his helmet, an interchangeable head, that harness, which you actually have to put on him yourself, as well as his sword and sword belt, which you also have to put on yourself. So I didn't really know this at the time because I had it years ago when this figure was brand new, but some of the leather is actually prone to peeling. So do be careful if you pick this figure up and decide to put all of that stuff on yourself. I had some peeling while I was pulling the leather through the clasps. He also comes with, let me get it out of the box, this alternate portrait of Gerard Butler screaming. And it's not a bad portrait at all. And it looks a lot better actually with the helmet on. And it's also a risky portrait for a 6-scale company to do. Normally, portraits don't emote quite as much as this, but it was super fitting for this character. And Star Ace, they really went for it. They went all out, gave us a really emotive portrait, and so I do commend them for that. Let's get a quick close-up of this portrait. There we go. See if I can get some focus going on here. There. Really not bad. Good look in the eyes, good realistic facial proportions with the wide open mouth. The only thing that I really think they missed the bar on with this portrait was the teeth. And sadly, even with that helmet on, you're going to notice the teeth. It's just kind of like they used too much paint. They're not as clearly defined as they could be. But the mouth itself looks wet and realistic, and as far as second portraits go, you really could do a whole lot worse than what Star Ace has given us. That said, let's get back to what else he comes with. He comes with an open and closed right and left hand. And some small broken arrows that you can just stick right into the shield like this. Where there's those little arrow gaps. You just sort of squeeze it in there. Oh, this might be kind of hard to do on camera. Let's see if I can get it done. There, so there's a hole for an arrow. There's actually a nice little pop. There you go. That you'll be able to feel once you have that arrow in place nicely. There we go. I want to get it into that one. Can I do that? There. And voila. 3 broken arrow shafts. They look pretty nice. There's not quite as many of them, so it's not as exaggerated as the Hot Toys one, which came with like, 7, 8, I don't know, a bunch of them. But you can just cover that shield with arrows. This one, you get 3 broken off arrowheads. Still pretty nice, and it does add a whole lot to the look of this figure on display. So I'm going to take those out now, put them back into the box because I really probably won't be using them with my display. But I don't want to lose them in case I ever do want to display this figure with them. I'm going to take this shield off real quick because we're going to go into articulation. Now, if you remember my Hot Toys review, you'll remember that I said that even though the Hot Toys body was seamless, it still gave us more articulation than this Star Ace body. And the reason being for that is while they do have a fully sculpted body, they did miss out on a couple of opportunities to provide us with points of articulation. Now, first, I'll go into the head here. the head with the helmet on does articulate a lot better than the Hot Toys version. Look all around. That works fine. The ball joint is stiff, but not too tight as to make posing him a big pain in the rump, which is good. Now, these are typical shoulder joints. So you can go forward, you can go out, but here is where they really missed the ball. And they do not have any sort of swivel at that elbow. So at the elbow, he can only go forward and back. There's a full range of motion at the wrist, but for any sorts of poses, you are limited to getting angles with what you can accomplish with the wrist and the elbow. And that does hinder and take away a lot of articulation for the upper body. All they really needed to do to knock it out of the park and really allow for some good dynamic poses was allow for a swivel in the elbow here. And I checked on my last one. I heated everything up and I really tried to move that around in there. And no, I realized upon really close-up inspection that it was not meant to swivel. So that is what it is. Maybe that hinders, the lack of articulation. Maybe it makes you not want to buy this figure. Maybe it's not important to you. That's for you to decide. But that's what it is. He also has a admittedly kind of useless point of articulation here at his diaphragm. And all it does is move forward, which makes his chest bulge out a little bit more. And it slides back, which makes his abs bulge out a little bit more. It is a very subtle point of articulation, and it might not even show on this camera, but it does change the look of Leonidas just a little bit. It changes how he carries himself. And if you're really into intricate and subtle poses, that might actually be something that you enjoy playing around with. All right, now let's get into the legs. Leg will go up a ton. You see that this is a soft plastic, so it bends and folds out of the way nicely. He can go out to about there, so he's not doing the splits, but it's your standard ball joint up in that hip there. This is the same as the shoulder or the elbow joint, so it only bends and it only goes to 90 degrees. And then that ankle is kind of like a larger version of a standard wrist peg joint. So it will swivel around and give you some more options for dynamic posing with that. But this guy's not super articulated. He's meant to sort of just stand in, get him in a kind of clunky but still good pose. You can get him in an action pose if you want. But he's a big, buff, intimidating Spartan. And that works just fine for me. Now, for the shield, what I like to do, because getting that gripping hand around this and then plugging it into there is actually such a bigger pain in the butt than I thought it would be without using some hot water. It's way simpler for me to just put his relaxed hand on there. Let's go like this. There. Put his relaxed hand on there, fold that through, and then fold his fingers through that shield. There we go, right like that or so. And now he's holding his shield, and you can articulate him with it. And that works just fine for me. I don't need him firmly gripping that shield. It's on there firm enough with this hand. So if you like him firmly grasping that shield, then I would suggest you get some hot water on there just to make it easier when you slide that wrist peg into the hand, because it's stiff and you'll be pushing a lot. And these little pins are prone to popping out of that shield. And they're a pain in the butt to put back in. I know, because I popped a couple of them out on my last one. So for the sake of not breaking anything, do heat up that gripping hand if you use it with the shield. Or just do what I do, because in my opinion, it's really not worth the hassle. Let's get his sword out here real quick, and get a quick look at the sword. Unlike on the Hot Toys one, this piece does not pop off to make it easier to slide into the hand. However, the hands are soft enough to allow you to just slide it in there. And he doesn't really grip it as tightly as I would like. That's okay. I think it's more iconic having him posed with his spear anyways. But if you're about that sword look, maybe we can pose him up real quick. Get him in kind of an action pose here. There, raise that back and above his head. Get that arm going out there. There. He can still do plenty for a pose with that sword. All right. Now, last thing I want to talk about is their use of a waist grabber instead of the crotch grip. You'll notice as I've been doing this review that he is on his display base and there is one of these waist huggers. I didn't put that there. That's how he came. I'm going to swap it out for a crotch cradle immediately after this review. I just wanted to show you what he actually came with and why Star Ace, the entire industry, moved beyond the waist grabbers a long time ago. So why are you still using what is more or less a Hot Toys style base, a little ovular one with a stand, up to a waist grabber? There's really no point because the crotch cradle is not going to rough up anything in here. This is rubber. His legs are plastic. They also have these little rubber tips. There's no purpose for that. And in fact, the waist grabber hinders things a little bit more because if you do it wrong and you're not careful with this, your leather belt will start flaking if you have that waist grabber on there. But whatever. I digress. Still a pretty cool figure, worthy of having in your collection. The musculature, well, you know what, actually, let's get the Hot Toys Leonidas in here right next to him, and we can compare these two figures. I'm not sure if anyone has done this yet on YouTube. So here is the Hot Toys King Leonidas. Let's see if I can get him to stand up. There we go. Adjust my lighting a little bit so you can actually see both of these figures. Wouldn't that be a treat? There. And actually, I'm going to move Hot Toys Leonidas' shield down and out of the way. All right. So, for a movie that's basically about really buff warrior dudes cutting down hordes and hordes of their enemies, I gotta say, I do appreciate Star Ace's musculature. As you can see, it is a bigger figure. He's scaled up a bit more. In that movie, Leonidas had a ridiculous set of glamour muscles, the abs, the shoulders, the pecs, and it's much more pronounced on the Star Ace figure than it is on the Hot Toys figure. So Hot Toys, they kind of, Leonidas looks kind of hungry. He looks like he cut down a little bit and he's in need of a sandwich. He's not as full in the midsection of muscles as the Star Ace figure. So I actually gotta say, I think the musculature is more accurate on the Star Ace figure than the Hot Toys figure. Let's look at him from a different angle. There we go. I think the arms are bigger and more pronounced than the Hot Toys figure on the Star Ace. Everything's fuller, and the texturing for the skin on the Star Ace figure does look better too. There's just a graininess to the Hot Toys piece that I don't think is very accurate to the movie. That said, the Star Ace King Leonidas is a little bit of a bobblehead. The Hot Toys helmet is much more sleek, and the color is actually a bit more bronze too. So I think the helmet and the head sculpt itself is just better on the Hot Toys version, even though the Star Ace figure came out years later. Yeah, there really is no beating that Hot Toys sculpt. That thing is perfection. Let's get a close-up of it again. That's a great sculpt. Love that sculpt. So I'll be using the Star Ace Relaxed Gerard Butler sculpt for this one, and the Hot Toys Action sculpt for that one, because they knocked it out of the park. On a quick comparison of accessories, the Hot Toys spear is a bit thinner than the Star Ace spear. It's not quite as bulky as this guy, so I'll hold them next to each other real quick. It's also, and that's interesting, there, get in there. So you see the Hot Toys one is thinner, not as bulky, but it is also a little bit longer, which I think is interesting because this figure is a tad bit smaller than the Star Ace figure. The Hot Toys one also has the thumbs out spear holding hand, which I think was a big missed opportunity for the Star Ace figure. It only has that one gripping hand. So is it worth it to have both of these guys in your collection at the same time? No. Probably not, unless you're a huge fan of 300 or you really are building up a cool Spartan display. But they both run around the same price nowadays, and it's certainly not a cheap price. So if you were going to choose just one, would I suggest the Hot Toys version or the Star Ace version? And that comes down to what you are comfortable with in your collection. Sorry, while I'm talking, I want to do a quick comparison of the shields. The Hot Toys, again, comes in with more of a bronze color. The Star Ace looks like it almost has a little bit of a patina on it in comparison, but the weathering and size is similar enough to not make too much of a difference. But anyways, which one do I like the most? For looks, overall quality of the figure, you just can't beat that Hot Toys. It's a wonderful piece. As far as what's going to last longer, now I, in my last review, showed you just what I could do with that Hot Toys body. And you can still do some pretty darn dynamic poses, and it's not going to rough up the body too much. However, this guy is solid plastic. So if you're going to go for a super dynamic pose, at least as much as this one is capable of, there's a lot less risk working with the Star Ace body than the Hot Toys Leonidas body. This guy's going to need some care in the collection. This guy you can get a little rough with. So it comes down to you. Like I said, the price point on these guys is now nearly identical and astronomical. So that's your choice. If you're a big fan of the movie and you got to get a Leonidas in. Anyways, guys, that's going to wrap up my review. Thanks for watching. This has been my review of the Star Ace 300 King Leonidas figure. Like I said, I just did a big unboxing, so I will have a lot more reviews coming out in hopefully quick succession. Thank you. Stay happy, stay healthy, and keep on collecting. Bye-bye.